So, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our morning coffee time for Sunday, August the 2nd. How's everyone this morning? In the news today, of course, the last of Ajahn Sona's series on the jhanas will be today. And if the title is any indication, I think he's going to go into his take on the mechanics of breath meditation. So I'm thinking it'd be good. I'm thinking it'd be a very good exploration of how Ajahn Sona uses Anapanasati and its relationship to the cultivation of states of serenity. So that'll be premiering at 1 o'clock if you want some company and that thrill of knowing that you have friends sharing the experience with you. And then tomorrow we'll have Ajahn on here. Hopefully not for the last time, but we'll have Ajahn on here for some more questions. So watch it once in a meditative state and drink it in, and then see what sticks or what questions come up, or maybe even watch it a second time. That's what I do. I usually watch it once, and then Monday morning I go through it again with a notepad nearby in case I want to jot something down. I see somebody asked a question, when's the next retreat? And that's a good question. It might somewhat depend on how this pandemic plays out. But right now it looks like we should be preparing for pandemic retreats, virtual retreats, because gathering in any significant numbers to do retreats right now does seem unlikely in a lot of places. So I have been in conversation with Ajahn Amro and some monastics at Amaravati who are looking at offering some stuff online, probably this fall. But they're still in the situation where they're considering how they could do that. But also recently, Ajahn Yanako at Abhayagiri told me that they'd be doing their Thanksgiving retreat online this year because of the pandemic. So that's a ways off for now. Thanksgiving. I was looking this morning for my edition of the Dhammapada by K.R. Norman, and just thought to read a few of the same stanzas that I read yesterday, just to give people a sense of comparison and how these translations can vary in what it is that they bring to the mind or bring to the translation. And some people get caught in trying to decide which one is right and which one is wrong. And there's a place for that. But as contemplative, I appreciate any educated and sincere effort to translate the Dhamma into something for us to contemplate. And I thought since I can't find my K.R. Norman version, I think I'll turn to this version by Ananda Maitreya. And these are of the most famous sayings of the Buddha, being the first verses in the Dhammapada. Mind is the forerunner of all actions. All deeds are led by mind, created by mind. If one speaks or acts with a corrupt mind, suffering follows. as the wheel follows the hoof of an ox pulling a cart. Mind is the forerunner of all actions. All deeds are led by mind, created by mind. If one speaks or acts with a serene mind, happiness follows, as surely as one's shadow. He abused me, mistreated me, defeated me, robbed me. Harboring such thoughts keeps hatred alive. He abused me, mistreated me, defeated me, robbed me. Releasing such thoughts banishes hatred for all time. And then this one, which we talked about a little bit yesterday in a bit more depth. Animosity does not eradicate animosity. Only by loving kindness is animosity dissolved. This law is ancient and eternal. So that's not the one, but this was the verse that really struck me yesterday, and this translation renders it quite differently. There are those who are aware that they are always facing death. Knowing this, they put aside all quarrels. So there are those who are always aware. No, there are those who are aware that they are always facing death. Knowing this, they put aside all quarrels. So it's interesting to contrast that with others do not realize we here are struggling. Those who realize this, for them all quarrels are therefore quelled. So quite different. One quite clearly is evoking death, and pointed a bit more sort of, there are those who are aware that they are always facing death. The translation in this one, this ever-present sort of contemplation of our mortality, actually had a really profound experience that corresponds with that verse. There was a period of time where I was contemplating, I was doing both a lot of death contemplation, but also was kind of focusing on this theme of anger. And something happened in the day that generated some anger in me towards another person, and like almost instantaneously, this contemplation of death kind of came up to me. And I started to get angry, and then it was almost like I just heard this voice saying, what does it matter to a dead man? And the anger that was in full blossom just dissipated, just poof, with that kind of contemplation. It just immediately empowered me to sort of let it go, and see it as ephemeral, trivial, insubstantial, not worth getting caught in. It's like the smallness. I think oftentimes I conceive or contemplate the effect of avijja tanha has this kind of narrowing effect. Oftentimes that contemplation comes to me in thinking of the experience of the self, the contraction of the self, like to live a self-obsessed, selfish life is a very small and narrow experience. Whereas to be capable of empathy and compassion, care for others, with a heart full of loving kindness and compassion, life feels expansive, grand, we might even say. But one thing that the contemplation of death brings us is it can help counter this obsession with the immediate, the finite, that which is small and narrow. Like some little trifle, some slight. We don't get what one wants, and immediately the mind goes to frustration or anger. So that rendering in the verse is very nice. Maybe I should read it again. There are those who are aware that they are always facing death. Knowing this, they put aside all quarrels. So, after that as a contemplation today, I'm tempted to go back and comment on those mind as forerunner verses, but I won't. I will instead see what's on everyone else's mind here. The Buddha rejected eternalism, yet he spoke of the deathless. Can you provide some reflection on how to consider this correctly? Sure. The Buddha rejected eternalism as a philosophical position. In particular, the eternalism that's spoken about in the suttas that the Buddha is referring to is this: it's a belief in self, so that I am really something enduring, special, unique, that exists through time. So that's what the Buddha is kind of rejecting. And, the deathless isn't really a philosophical position. Like, this concept of the deathless comes up very early if we cast the story of the Buddha in a chronological way. As the Bodhisattva, he's confronted with aging, illness, and death, and the suffering that those bring to a human life, and he conceives them like almost as a prison sentence, and they kind of stand in representation to the suffering of samsara and the suffering of the sense realm, being leashed to that which is subject to arising and ceasing. So, this state of being unable to find security, refuge, completion, rest, true happiness. Or if said another way, it's like the sense realm is the realm of birth and death. Things are arising and existing for a period of time and ceasing, so they are death-bound. So the conditioned realm is the realm of death, and in particular, the sense realm is the realm of Mara, who's the lord of death. So when the Buddha's talking about the deathless, he's, at first, as a bodhisattva, he's inspired by the thought, the hypothesis even, you could say, that there could be some security, some refuge from being caught in this cycle of trying to find completion and contentment and happiness and peace when everything in the world of the senses and everything in the conditioned world is not reliable, uncertain, unstable, ephemeral. So is there a peace outside of that? Is his question that stimulates the beginning of his spiritual search. And in the stories of him practicing as the Bodhisattva, this always is kind of the litmus test. He achieves great things practicing in different ways, but they never take him to this deathless state. And in particular, he studies with a couple renowned teachers that taught deep states of serenity. They taught the jhanas, and he was able to master deep, profound states of jhanas that they taught. And they said, that's it. This is the highest. This is foremost. This is nibbana. This is enlightenment. But the Buddha, examining his own experience, rejects that because he sees that it too is conditioned. It's something that one enters into and abides in for some period of time, but then one, when those conditions are exhausted, one comes out of it. And when he describes that experience of coming out of it, he describes essentially thoughts of the world connected with suffering arising in his mind. So because of that, he knows he hasn't yet found what he was looking for. He hasn't yet found the deathless. So it's not so much a philosophical position, but the Buddha starts off with this question and even faith that there could be a peace and a freedom outside of the conditioned realm that could be sought after and attained. And he doesn't even frame it sort of like as a self, like that would be who I was meant to be, or me, or mine, or that's who I really am. So there's no sense of eternalism in there, and also it's not empty philosophy. I mean, it's somebody sort of examining their emotional and spiritual experience of consciousness, positing that there may be something better and more free and sublime. In other places, he describes it as a place of security. And then engaging in profound spiritual practice, trying to realize that. So, I think that's one way to distinguish the two. Could you say a bit about the purpose of metta? Is it to really help others, or mostly for our own state of mind? I'm smiling because it's a somewhat artificial distinction. I've come to believe that which is truly virtuous and good can't just benefit us. It does benefit others. And, at the very least, it changes others because it changes the way that you think about them, speak to them, and interact with them. Like if one is able to cultivate an elevated ability or strengthened ability not to harbor ill will towards others, and to arouse, nurture, maintain, and make a habit of relating to people with goodwill, then that transforms the way that you interact with them. And I say, at the least, it affects others in those ways. It probably has the most profound effect on us, but I think of it as kind of radiating out to benefit other beings. And, even in very subtle ways, just being around somebody, like, you know what it's like to be around somebody when they're in pain, when they're grumpy or angry or frustrated or having a bad day. We're sensitive beings, and that impacts us. I wouldn't go so far to say that it harms us, but it does impact us. And contrast that with being around somebody who is emotionally well, who's happy and at ease and full of friendliness and kindness towards self and others. And it's delightful to be around such people, even if you're not doing much, even if you're just sitting there with your eyes closed or sharing space, sharing time together. I've spent many happy hours just sitting quietly in the presence of good people. What comes to mind is time visiting various teachers and monks. And a lot of the time that you spend with them is like as a visiting monk or as a monk in their community is just sitting with them and watching them receive other people. Or sometimes just sitting quietly. When we feel down, should we force ourselves to be more joyous so people around us don't feel annoyed about it? As it's not fun to be around someone who's feeling down. Well, yeah. I wouldn't say force yourself, but the concept of right effort, Eleanor, is not to settle for that. Find some way to resolve the negative emotions that have overtaken one, and that can be difficult. We need to have some strategies, and we need to try things. But the Buddha doesn't encourage just wanting and wishing these emotions to go away, or even waiting for them to go away. We should make some sort of effort to resolve them, and there's many ways that we can kind of skillfully engage in them. Emotion has this way of capturing us, especially negative emotion. So, when you're really kind of feeling down, it's probably not all that easy just to be happy and change your mind state. You might need to do something more engaged and physically active, like go exercise, go clean the house, go do some yard work, go help a friend do something. Go read something or listen to something that's uplifting and inspiring. Find some way, come up with some strategy to overcome that sort of negative emotion. Sometime, as I talked yesterday, serenity and insight are the most effective tools there. So if through reflection we can understand maybe why it is we're feeling the way we are, then sometimes we can most effectively deal with it. But even absent that kind of insight and understanding, we can just move to create positive, peaceful states of mind and replace the afflictive emotions with something better. So as long as you're making effort, I think, to resolve it, it's okay to stay around other people. If you're not willing to do anything, then you probably should remove yourself from the situation or at least be very careful about what you do and say, so you don't drag other people into it or create some sort of negative karma. Good morning, Shira. When I discuss the Dhamma with friends from other Buddhist schools, it brings up conflicts. Would it be wise to just avoid this topic altogether? I suppose it depends on your skillfulness and depends on your friends. Like it can be a good experience to talk to people that practice in different schools of Buddhism, have different conception of it. If done in a non-dogmatic and caring kind of way, just like jointly exploring how it is that each other understands the teachings that they're drawn to, and how it is that they speak to one and motivate one and inform one's own spiritual path and practice. If it does just lead to conflict, then I would leave it aside and find another way to be in relationship and share time with them. But it's nice when you can find the skillfulness in yourself and others, not to have to avoid good and kind of wholesome topics. So, and sometimes it takes a little figuring out how to get there. It is challenging. I mean, I still have friends that practice in various schools of Buddhism that don't resonate much with me. And even within Theravadan Buddhism, or even within my particular Sangha, there's people that relate to various dhammas and teaching styles and teachers that don't resonate so strongly with me. And the same potential for conflict arises in being in relationship with them. So I don't know if that's much of a clear answer, but sometimes you do need to avoid it. Other times you can maybe mutually explore how to skillfully disagree, or skillfully and honestly just explore what it is that each other sort of sees in various teachings and how they understand them. So, Ajahn, what did the formless jhanas achieve? How would you do the fifth jhana, i.e. the infinite space, or the infinity of space, I believe it's called? How would you do it? Well, there's not a lot of technique or detail described in the sutras themselves. Some of the commentaries have views and opinions about this. I was kind of interested in this in my early years, but it kind of lost interest in it somewhat. And I kind of question the numbering of these based on various things I've read and even the views of various scholars. It does make sense to think of the form jhanas, or the the first, second, third, and fourth jhana in a hierarchical fashion. And there is some sense for the formless jhanas having a hierarchy by the way they're described, I would say. But it doesn't, especially the earlier sort of formless jhanas, if we think of them in the way that they're traditionally listed, and this would include the infinity of space, I'm not so sure how much I relate to that as like the fifth jhana. So what do they achieve? Well, they're not in the Noble Eightfold Path. Sama Samadhi is defined as the four jhanas, or the form jhanas. So, but they still are states of samadhi and states of jhana. So, the mind becomes quite purified, wieldy, malleable, has the same benefits as those. But and there are a few teachings that talk about some of the extreme or refined special characteristics of some of the higher form jhanas, but there's not many people I know that can talk about those from direct experience. In fact, there's nobody. It's not many. There's nobody I know that can talk about those from direct experience. That's not to say nobody has experienced those or nobody experiences those, but I think it's exceedingly rare that people have experienced those things, mastered those things, and so I don't tend to give them too much attention. Really, they're interesting. The jhanas himself can be a controversial subject in many circles, and the formless jhanas are even more controversial. Like many people disagree about various aspects of the formless jhanas. So I suppose that's not much of an answer, but okay, wow. I lost track of time and we're moving on to 8:40, so I'm going to wrap this up for today. Let's see. A couple brief things here, though. Ajahn Viradamo at Tisarana leads a 3-day retreat at the end of August. Thank you for reminding us, Sumana. So I don't know if people need to register for that, but that's certainly something to explore. Visit tsarana.ca for details on that. I'm going to wrap it up for today. So thank you all for joining us. And if you're free at 1 p.m. West Coast time, Pacific Daylight Time, or I guess that'd be 4 p.m. Eastern Time in the U.S., tune into the premiere of Ajahn Jhana Talk, and he'll be visiting us again tomorrow. So bring your questions for Ajahn, and I get to play host tomorrow. So be well, friends, and have a good day. Bye for now.